everyone, my name is Lori and I'd like to welcome you back to BabyNet, Navigating Experiences Together. I'm excited to once again be connecting with you this week and I hope you had a good week. I hope you were also able to try our weekly challenge last week, which was to reflect on the good aspects of you and your baby's temperaments and to focus on these positive qualities during your interactions with each other. In today's segment, I'm going to be discussing how relationships shift and change after you have a baby, and I'll also talk about how to develop healthy social support systems, and I'll finish off with our question of the week and our weekly challenge. All right, let's get started today with our quote of the week, which is, "I don't know what's more exhausting about parenting, the getting up early or acting like you know what you're doing." And that quote is a little bit humorous today, and that comes to us from Jim Gaffigan, who's a popular comedian and actor. And I thought this quote was sort of fun for today, as although it's humorous, it's often true that as new parents, we often do feel ill-equipped to handle the new challenges that are coming our way with being a new parent. But having people around us that can help out and provide that support to us can be literally like a lamp unto our path. And it can be really hard to ask for help, but I do encourage you to try. So today I hope that you will learn some new perspectives on seeking and accepting help and also navigating your relationship changes during this exciting time. So first of all, I'd like to note that it's important that I am speaking about all relationships in this section, not just your primary relationships. So whether or not you have a partner, I'm sure you have experienced some relationship shifts since your baby has been born. So whether that's with if you do have a partner or if you don't, whether that would be with your parents or with your siblings or with your friends. So these types of relationship shifts and changes can be felt, I'm sure, by everyone after they've had a new baby. So a few things that are important to keep in mind are that the arrival of a child is a major life event that's happened in your life. So there are always going to be stresses, that either whether they're good or bad, but they are stresses that are going to occur and they're going to affect how you feel about yourself and on your relationships that you have in your life. You may be feeling sleep deprived, you may be feeling a little bit more short-tempered, and all of these things can mean that they put somewhat of a strain on our relationships that we're having. A new baby can also mean that finances can be a little bit tighter and the schedule in your household is somewhat disrupted. So all of these things can contribute to having a little bit more stress and strain in our relationships. Many people notice big changes in their relationships, particularly between partners if you do have one. Some shifts in the relationship can be very positive and they can bring people closer together, and others can cause a little bit more conflict and distress. So if you are feeling stressed and anxious and maybe a little bit depressed, it can be especially hard if you do have a partner or those who are close to you. Sometimes they may not understand or know what to do to help you. And this can lead to you even feeling more alone and possibly more isolated. And you might have difficulty receiving or asking for help from those close to you. So one thing that might help in your relationship is to concentrate on things that are working well. What are some things that are going well and that are working? Maybe you can set some short-term goals and focus on these short-term goals and solutions rather than what is wrong. Some other important things to keep in mind are that there's many changes that come with pregnancy and with parenting, and so for some people these can be really intense changes and for others maybe not so much. But without exception, these changes will affect you, no doubt. They affect both parents. They affect the relationship and other family members as well that are around you. People respond to stress and change differently. Some people are able to roll with it a little bit more easily and some people take a little bit more time, and that's okay. Understanding and accepting these differences though can be hard. If you do have a primary relationship, maybe one of you is one way and one of you is the other. So it's just kind of learning how to accept and live with those changes that you see in each other. Working on a relationship is hard at the best of times as well, which I'm sure we can all attest to. But even more challenging is if both parties are feeling sleep deprived, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and if you're just feeling generally a little bit more depleted because of the demands of having a new baby and that sleep deprivation that I have talked about before. So you may need to just approach your relationship with a little bit more gentleness, a little bit more attentiveness, and deliberateness, especially when you're talking about relationship concerns. Healthy communication can be even more challenging, so I'll address some healthy communication tips in a moment. But it's best to, maybe this is not the time to maybe tackle those big long-term issues that you've been thinking about in a relationship. It's generally in those pregnancy days, those early days of parenting, maybe isn't the best time to be tackling those big issues. And it's advisable to maybe set these conflicts off to the side just for a bit, and try to build understanding, respect, and support. So some other things that I came across are some tips maybe from other people that have gone through this, some things, some advice that they can provide. So first of all, it takes time. So time to adjust, time to learn about having a new baby, what this means for your relationship. Having a child is, although it's a happy event, it can also be, it is a life stress event. So it doesn't mean that you don't love your child or that you don't care for your partner or your family anymore. But it's even if you sometimes feel negative or overwhelmed or distressed, it just means that you're having that time to take that adjustment. But things will come back, don't worry. And if you do have a partner, think of your family and your friends and your partner as a team. So although one or both of you may feel like you're on the injured list of that team, it still means that you are a team and you're working together. So talk about how you can support one another and feel like a team, even though there may be days when you're feeling a bit cranky with one another. So not every team has a great day, and not everybody has a positive time on that team, but it can always come back together. So also, another thing that you can do is ask one another what's working and what isn't. Don't try to solve all your relationship problems at once. It's okay to leave some conflicts and issues aside until you're feeling a little bit more stable. And focus on your short-term needs and what you can have from one another. So for example, maybe your partner is really helping out a lot with washing the dishes, but there might be the odd time where you wish that they would help maybe with cooking a meal, and that's okay to say that. Say what you need for that short term. And you can try talking about your problems using I statements that describe how you're feeling, what you're noticing, and what you're thinking. For example, you might say that that's awesome when you're doing the dishes, but I really feel like it might help me out a little bit more the odd time, maybe twice a week, if you could cook some dinner. So this might be better than starting statements with you, as sometimes people can feel quite defensive when you state things that way. And again, try not to use those angry or critical words, even if there is a big conflict. And it's if both people only focus on how they're feeling hurt and act defensive, then there's really no room for that positive communication and that big change that we like to see. So some things that you could try. So if you are having some troubles in your relationship, it's really important that you help take stock of what you actually have. So I've found some questions here that I thought would be good for you. So sometimes when you ask these questions of yourself and you answer them, it can give you that much needed perspective on what you have that is still working in your relationship, and it can help you focus on the positives. So some questions for if you have a partner in your life, or even for friends as well, is how did you first meet? Reflect back on those things that connected you to begin with. What were those things that excited you about that person? And think about those things. And then for all relationships in your life, what do you do together that makes your relationship work? What are those things that you have fun doing? What are things that are positive in your life together? What's that best thing that you feel about your partner, your friends, or your family member? Just reflect on that. Even write them down if you want to. What are those things that you feel are their best attributes? Some other things that you could say are, what are the biggest changes in your relationship? What are some challenges that you're facing? And what has helped you through difficult times in the past? Sometimes it's really important to just think back about our times that we've maybe struggled with our relationships before, and really think about what has helped you through those times in the past. And even again, write those down if you find that could be helpful, because maybe you try those strategies and tips again. And is there a successful relationship that you'd like to learn from? Think about the other people that you might know in your life and qualities that you might admire in their relationship. Maybe there's something that you could learn from them. And could you even ask people in that relationship what has worked for them in the past, even when they've gone through some difficulties or some more challenging times, which can be having a new baby for sure. Again, although it's very exciting, you might be finding that it's some challenging times, and maybe there's other people that have gone through that before and you could learn from them. So finally, I would like to leave you with a few strategies for positive communication and conflict resolution, because I know we're all in relationships and we're all going to have these times in our lives. So try scheduling some time to communicate when you're both calm. I know at times, again, I've spoken about when you're maybe feeling a little bit more sleep deprived and your emotions can be a little bit more, we're wearing our emotions on our sleeves. But if there's times when you're a little bit more calm and rested, those are good times to schedule for having some communication. If things do get heated, agree to take a break. Maybe you need to leave the room, do some deep breathing, go for a walk. All of those kinds of things can be very helpful. And make sure that you do come back together again when you're both calm. And it also is helpful to agree on a time that you will come back together. Sometimes we can leave the room to do these things and that's positive, but it can be helpful for the other person and for both of you to agree on a time that you will come back together to talk about it. Try to say some positive things first and then maybe follow up with what the problem is or what the negative thing is from your point of view. But if you always start with a few positive things, that can help to break the ice as well. Try to stay focused on the present. It doesn't really help to list everything that your partner or your friend or your family member has done wrong in the past or every problem that you've had with them. So you do try to stay focused on the present issue that you're discussing and be specific about what's bothering you. It's more helpful to mention particulars than to speak in generalizations. And try not to make assumptions about what the other person is thinking or feeling. So make sure you check with them and make sure about what it is that you think you're hearing. So restate what you think you have heard your partner or your friend or family member say, because sometimes we can misinterpret what someone says, and we can take their comments the wrong way, and that's not at all how they intended something. So it is really important, that's part of that active listening piece, to restate what you think you have heard and double check with them. And in order to be successful to solve problems together, you'll perhaps need to try to understand each other's feelings. So I know sometimes that can be hard to step out of the way you're feeling and to understand someone else's feelings, but really trying to hear and understand what the other person is saying, even if it's hard and you don't really think they're justified in feeling the way they're feeling, it's still their feelings. So that can go a long way, kind of that empathetic piece can go a long way to working through problems and disagreements. And if you think your partner or friend or family member isn't communicating with you, then simply ask them if there is anything that is bothering them, if there's anything that they want to tell you. And try not to interrupt when another person is speaking, and try not to exaggerate or overgeneralize your concerns to make them more important. They are important, and it's important just to state how we're feeling. And it's okay, like I say, to take that time out and come back to a conversation. But that silent treatment is often not a positive strategy. Even if it does feel maybe protective to you in the moment, like I say, it's important that we keep that open communication going. And like I say, if you feel like you can't talk about something in that moment, then make sure you figure out a time to come back to it later. So the last tip that I would like to leave you with is something kind of called relationship planning. So if you feel like you are communicating well with your partner or friend or family member, and there's some things that you would like to do to keep moving forward with the positive changes that you're seeing, is you could try writing down some top 3 things that you'd like to see change in your relationship, something that would make it more positive. And then you can also write down an action plan for how you would achieve those goals. So for example, one relationship goal that you may have would be that you would like to argue less with the other person. So an action plan that you would have for that goal, for an example of that might be that you might want to spend more time together. So figure out some ways, and actually if you can write these down, figure out some ways that you would like to actually try spending more time with that person. The more we spend time with them, the more enriched our relationships can become. So hopefully you have found even 1 or 2, I know I gave you a lot of tips in this section, but even 1 or 2 of these ideas that might be helpful tools for you to assist you in navigating the new normal that you have in your relationships now that you have a new little one in your life and in your family. So I'd like to switch gears now to talking about how to develop and find healthy social supports. So for many people, social support plays a very important role in helping them make it through the life changes that go along with becoming a new parent. So here are some questions that you can think about that can help you to know whether or not you are receiving enough support from others and to identify the kind of support that you may be lacking or that you might need. So the first one is, do you have somebody in your life who can make you feel good about yourself? The second one is, do you have somebody are you connected to other parents who you can speak openly to about the challenges of pregnancy, about becoming a new parent? The next question would be, are there people that in your life who you can speak honestly to and feel open about sharing your feelings and your concerns? Another question is, are there people that you can depend on in your life who can help you if you're really needing that help? And the last question would be, is there a person that you can trust for good advice when you're having problems? So if you said no to any of these questions, it's important that you think about how you can reconnect to people who can support you. And I just want to add another note here that I realize in this time that we've just come through with COVID, that you probably were feeling more isolated and lacking in those healthy social supports as we were isolating ourselves. So especially now as we are just hopefully experiencing some easing of our COVID-19 restrictions, you might want to consider especially how to reconnect with some of the people that are in your life that could be providing you with some of these supports. So increasing and strengthening healthy, supportive relationships are some of the best things that you can do to support your mental well-being and your emotional well-being. So I'd like to talk now about 4 different kinds of social supports that we have in our lives. So the first one is emotional support. So what is it? What is emotional support? Well, that's having someone in your life, so perhaps a partner, a close friend, a family member that you can talk to, especially when you're feeling worried, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you have concerns about your baby. Having people in your life who make you feel valuable and who remind you of your strengths. What are the things about you that they love? So an example could be someone that you could vent to if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling frustrated, if your baby just can't get to sleep and this has been going on for 3 nights. Is there someone that you can call and connect with and vent about that? Someone that likes to tell you how they love having you as a friend, how they admire you, and how hard you're working at being a new parent. So possible sources of this kind of support, this emotional support, would be, like I mentioned, a partner, a family, extended family, perhaps some friends that you have, coworkers maybe that you have, and maybe even a neighbor. So those would be some examples of emotional support. The next one is practical support. So practical support are those people that can help you with actual practical day-to-day things, such as maybe running errands, some everyday household tasks, and maybe even some childcare. So helping you with those actual things that you have around the house. So for examples, again, more examples of this would be someone who could take care of the baby so that you could have a nap, and maybe having a family member who could bring over a meal if you're just having, again, maybe you're having a rough patch, maybe your baby's teething. Is there someone that you could call to just say, hey, we're having a really rough patch here. Is there any way you could possibly drop by with a meal? And again, some possible sources of support would be those ones that I just mentioned, so friends, family members, coworkers, neighbors. And some other sources of practical support might be for you. You might have a nanny, you might have someone that can help you clean your house. But it's not just maybe individuals. These can also include services. So when we've taught this concept in the past, we've had lots of good ideas that have come forward. So for some people that may be having meals delivered to your house, so using a service like Skip the Dishes, or some grocery delivery. That's something that new parents have spoken of a lot lately in our in-person groups, is just that availability now of being able to do that click and collect type of groceries. That can be really a practical way that you can get help and support. The third one is a social support network. So a group where you can experience a sense of belonging. So it's that companionship with others who are perhaps going through similar experiences and situations that you are. So that could be, if you are experiencing some postpartum depression or anxiety, it could be joining a support group, such as we do have here at Family Futures. Perhaps it's having a membership at a community center. Some other ideas might be breastfeeding support groups. If you are a young or single mom or parent, there could be groups out there that would support you with that. Different cultural groups, and perhaps Aboriginal friendship centers. These are all ways that you can connect and find connection with other people who are going through similar situations than you are. And then the last one would be information support. And I know that I have spoken about this in the BabyNet program before, but that's having access to reliable information and knowledge. So having that accurate information regarding that postpartum period is really crucial. You want to make sure that you're getting accurate, reliable information in terms of all of the things that you could be going through with your new baby. And again, so I'll just outline these really quickly for you, but that could be, again, your family physician is key. There's different hotlines that you can access. Your obstetrician, if you've had a midwife, if your child has a pediatrician, perhaps you're seeking the help of a psychiatrist or a mental health worker or a social worker. And again, our public health nurses. If you've had a doula throughout your pregnancy, they can be another source of reliable information. Calling 211 or 811. And then here at Family Futures Resource Network, with our Community Resource Navigator, we have infinite amounts of support that we can provide you here as well. So hopefully, as you reflect on maybe some things that you might be needing in your life to help you through this period, and going through these 4 different types of support, that's given you some ideas and where you could seek support for you and your family at this time. So now it's time to turn our attention to the question of the week, which is, I'm having trouble thinking of who could be in my support systems, and do you have any suggestions? So my answer to that would be yes. Sometimes it can be very tricky trying to brainstorm who could provide you with these different types of support that I just outlined, especially during such a big transition time as having a baby. So knowing about the different types of support that I've just outlined can help you to focus your thinking. So using a support map shaped like concentric circles could be very helpful for you. So what this means is start by placing your name and your baby's name in that middle circle. And then as you begin to work outwards in the next circle, you can start to brainstorm who would be in that next closest circle to you. And this could be the people that could provide you with that emotional support. Then moving on from there, then you'd move to that next circle, which could be your practical supports. And then start brainstorming some people and some ideas around those practical supports. Then you'd move on, and that would be your next circle, which would be your social support network. And then finally, in that outer circle, you would have that information support. So that's kind of that wrap around, that bigger ideas. Those would be that information support that you would have. And then you'll have some people that could be listed in 2 different circles, and that's totally okay. You might have some people that overlap. They may be in your emotional support, but they may also provide you with that practical support. And if that's the case, well, count yourself fortunate. That's awesome that you would have people like that in your lives. So that's totally no problem at all. So hopefully, if you think about it in that way, as being kind of a support map of different circles and listing all of those individuals, and you can brainstorm, that would be a helpful way for you to think of some ideas around building that support network for yourself. So that leads me right into our challenge for the week, our weekly challenge, which will be to draw that support map that I just mentioned and brainstorm about who could be in your circles of support. So if you have a partner or maybe a friend or a family member that you'd like to sit down with and try filling this out together, once you get started, you may be surprised to learn how big your support network actually is, all of the people that you could tap into for that type of support. And if you've had a friend who's recently had a baby, share this idea with them and then compare your support maps. You might find that you might learn from each other. They may have ideas that you never thought of and vice versa. So you might find this to be a really helpful activity and a fun activity to do with someone else who just had a little one. So that's it for this week, and I'd just like to wrap up now by reminding you to continue to check out our YouTube channel, as we do have updated videos added there, and then also to check out our website now at familyfutures.ca for upcoming programs, which is very, very exciting. So I'd like to remind you as well that our contact information will be up at the end of this video. If you have any questions or concerns about this topic or anything else, please do reach out to us, and we'd love to provide you with that support. So I'd like to say farewell, and I hope that you all have a great week. Enjoy the weather out there, and I'd like to see you again soon. Bye for now.